What's going on, boys? It's your resident cheek clapper and homie dapper YGO Senpai here. I'm going to go ahead and bring you guys today one of my favorite decks of all time, straight back to the Duelist Alliance days, with a little twist, with a little bit of a modern touch to it. We're playing branded Shaddolls. I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into the deck profile. I'm not even going to waste you guys' time. So, before we get started, guys, make sure that we like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment letting me know what you guys want to see for future videos, and any suggestions that you guys have to help me get better, by all means go ahead and drop them in the comments. So without further ado, we're going to start with our Shaddoll lineup. We are playing 2 copies of Shaddoll Wendy. This card is amazing for this deck when it is sent to the graveyard or flipped face up, which we hardly ever use that effect, but it does come up. You can special summon a Shaddoll from your deck in face down defense position or face up attack position. So it is really good, especially if you need to get your flip effects off, say for example Shaddoll Beast. Next, we are playing 1 copy of Dogmatica for our fusion plays. When that is sent to the graveyard, we can use it to send a copy of Wendy or any other Shaddoll that we need, because the big thing that we want to keep in mind about these Shaddolls is they have effects when they are sent to the graveyard by card effect. So next, we have Shaddoll Dragon. This is our Mystic Mine out, just the natural one that we are playing. Speaking of outs for the meta, we are playing 1 copy of Nail Shaddoll Aerial. I've noticed that there are a lot of builds that have cut this card. I just don't think that you can do it, because you can utilize this card throughout the combo and banish 3 cards from your opponent's graveyard. So, I mean, it's just really too good, especially when Tier Limits needs their cards in the graveyard for their effects to go off. Next is our 1 copy of Shaddoll Beast. This card, when it's sent to the graveyard, it can just draw you 1 card, so it's a free advantage. If you do happen to be able to set this card off of Wendy, you can flip it, draw 2 cards, and discard 1, so you can use it to trigger more Shaddoll effects, so that is, of course, really great. Next, we have our copy of Shaddoll Hedgehog. So Hedgehog's effect, when it's sent to the graveyard, it can search us a Shaddoll monster, so that is really good. I really prefer its flip effect to search a Shaddoll spell or trap. Speaking of Shaddoll spell or traps that we may want to be searching, we have, sorry, let me get all set up here, 3 copies of Shaddoll Fusion. Shaddoll Fusion, is of course busted, helps revolutionize how we look at fusion cards today. This card right here says if your opponent controls an extra deck monster, you can fusion summon using cards from the deck for a Shaddoll Fusion monster, so that's really good. Last but never least, our 1 copy of Shaddoll Schism that we can search through our combo by sending Apolone to the graveyard, so that's really good. Being able to make window on our opponent's turn is really just a complete shutdown against most decks. So that is it for our Shaddoll lineup. Nice, compact, concise. You could make arguments for running a copy of Genius if you wanted to, so if you want to, by all means, that way you can incorporate Apolone into the extra deck, which is a free negate. Next, for our branded Despia package, we're playing 2 copies of Alibur, the Jester of Despia. This card, of course, really good, because when it's normal or special summon, you can search a branded spell or trap from your deck to your hand. So obviously that is going to be super good for the deck. Next, we are playing 2 copies of Fallen of Albaz. A lot of people have opted to cut this card to 1. I just can't see a reason to do it. This card is super poly on legs, so I really can't, especially when we start looking at our extra deck. It's just not going to be feasible. Next, for our branded package, we have 3 copies of our branded Fusion. Branded Fusion is obviously really good because you can just go ahead and special summon a Fusion monster from the extra deck using cards from your deck and sending them to the graveyard, as long as the Fusion monster says Fallen of Albaz. Next, we're playing our 3 copies of Branded Opening. Branded Opening, of course, really good. Being able to use it in the standby phase to special summon out Alibur and be able to search your Branded Fusion is really good. Next card that you may want to search off of it is a copy of Branded in Red, which is really good, being able to use that on your opponent's turn. You can make Mirror Jade possibly on your opponent's turn and interrupt them that way. And the last card is Branded Banishment. This card's really good because you can use it on your opponent's turn, special summon out a level 8 fusion monster with materials from your field. So a lot of the times you can use this to go into Tax Dragon if you wanted to. For anybody who doesn't know, Tax Dragon is Masquerade. To help out that way. I am not playing Masquerade. However, if you want to, by all means, go ahead You'll see when we get to the extra deck why this is really good. So that is it for our branded package. Not too much to change. You could make an argument for different ratios on some of the cards if you want, but you don't necessarily have to change anything. So next, on to our Dogmatica package. We are playing one copy of Dogmatica Ecclesia the Virtuous. She's really good because when she's summoned, she can search a copy of Nidyr's Servant. Next, we have our copy of Fleur-de-Lis. Fleur-de-Lis is a free monster negate, so that is really good as long as we're keeping our copy of Ecclesia on the field. And new, fresh to 3 off of the ban list, we have our 3 copies of Nidyr's Servant. This is obviously really good because this helps us get into a blaze, sending Apolone to the graveyard to search our Shaddoll Schism, and being able to send other cards to the graveyard to come up with some wacky stuff, search out more Dogmatica cards, usually our Fleur-de-Lis, and keep extending from there. Another card that you could possibly search is Dogmatica Punishment off of our Dogmatica Ecclesia. Punishment, really good. I have thought about cutting this card and maybe upping another card using Dogmatica Maximus or something like that. I could definitely see the argument for that. It's just that you don't want to be locked out of your extra deck in this deck, so definitely something I'm seriously considering. If you wanted to make any changes, that is the #1 change I would recommend making. So moving on to our general fusion engine, we are playing the Edge Imp Chain Fright for Patchwork package. So our 2 copies of Chain, 2 copies of Patchwork, 2 copies of Polymerization. This is the package where I could see you making the argument, making the most change, upping Chain and Patchwork to 3 if you wanted to. I find that for consistency's sake and just being able to see one of them in your opening hand is good enough, so I really just wouldn't change anything. Next, we are moving on to our staples. So 3 copies of Ash. This card is going to be really good going in the next format. I think with the amount of searching that is happening, this card is just generically good anyways. Next, we are playing 3 copies of Effect Veiler. Again, spot negation may not necessarily be the best thing in the game right now, especially with the ways that Tearlaments and Sprite can play around it. However, this card is a light, so if you're in a tough spot and need a light target for your Brand of Fusion, he is there. Speaking of light targets for your Brand of Fusion, we are playing 1 Hex Sealed Fusion. That card can just substitute for any fusion material, so really good. And next, we have our 1 copy of Call by the Grave. Call by the Grave, obviously ban-worthy card. Konami hasn't hit it, and I'm kind of glad. I kind of wish it was 3 with this format, but we do have it to play, so we are playing it. And that is it for the main deck. Next, we are going to move on to the extra deck. For our extra deck, our Shaddoll package, we are playing 2 copies of El Shaddoll Construct, 2 copies of El Shaddoll Winda, and 1 copy of Apolone. Construct, really good. It's a Foolish Burial on summon. When it goes up against effect monsters in battle, you can just destroy it instead of having to go through the damage steps. So that's really good. Can avoid a lot of damage step effects or anything weird going on. Winda, being able to summon this on your opponent's turn through Schism, locking them out of the game from special summoning 1 of the 2 times, really good. Apolone, being able to search your Shaddoll cards, so say you actually happen to hard draw your Schism, you can still get into your Shaddoll fusion, so that's really good. Next, for our fusion monsters, for our Branda package, we are playing our copy of Lumbellion, our copy of Mirror Jade. Lumbellion, really good, being able to go ahead, use its effective fusion summon, and Mirror Jade being able to banish your opponent's cards. Next, we're playing 2 copies of Albion for targets to send off of Mirror Jade to go ahead, set our branded opening, set a branded or red, search a branded fusion, all really good options. Next, we are playing a copy of Despian Quiritus. Despian Quiritus is actually really good for helping you OTK because it can set all of your opponent's monsters to 0 attack. So you can summon out your big board, set your opponent's monsters to 0 attack, just attack for game really quickly. As long as they don't have any effects that are going to trigger that are going to cause you to not be able to go for game. Next, the sauce, the spice for this format, especially coming up, is our Albalenitus, the Abyss Dragon. So for anybody who doesn't know, Albalenitus only requires Fallen of Albaz plus 1+ dragon monsters, so when you have your opponents starting to play Bisted and things like that, being able to just normal summon Albaz, Super Poly your opponent's board away is really good, really strong. Definitely something I would consider playing once the Bisted cards come out. If you want to cut this for something else for now and then put it in later, that is totally fine. Next, we have our Nadir Servant target, or our Dogmatica punishment target. So if you wanted to pop 2 cards with punishment, you could totally do that with Entis. If not, you could just use Nadir Servant, send Entis, search that way, being able to help you break your opponent's board. The reason that we are playing the Light Hex Seal Fusion is our copy of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. Dragoon, obviously being a non-negate, is going to be really helpful. Being able to protect yourself from interruption during your turn, really good. Speaking of interrupting, if you want to interrupt your opponent's turn, go ahead and make Guardian Chimera. Guardian Chimera, really good. Being able to pop up to 2 cards on your opponent's side of the field, draw 1 or draw 2 cards and pop 1 card on your opponent's side of the field. Either way, it starts generating a lot of net advantage, so it's really good. And the last card that is actually pretty good is our copy of Gravity Controller. You may not think it on first sight, but it is pretty good because once you summon out your construct, as long as you summon your construct in your extra monster zone, being able to link it off for Gravity Controller and then use Construct's effect to recycle a Shaddoll spell or trap, really good. So, just being able to generate that much advantage is, of course, wonderful. So, that is it for our extra deck. Moving on to our side deck. I will admit our side deck is a little bit of a work in progress, but that is okay. For the most part, I am pretty comfortable with it for this format. So, for first, we are playing 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. Dark Ruler No More is going to be really good having to break boards, especially if you're going into an unfavorable matchup, whether it be Tearlaments, because they're able to use Super Poly on you, or Sprite, just because they make those really strong unbreakable boards. Bisted, Kshatriya, both going to be really strong, so being able to take care of those boards before they become too big of an issue for you is definitely going to be pretty good. Now, a secret tech that I'm using, I don't know if it's correct or not. I'm still in the testing phase with it, but I've liked it so far. If you just access your Shaddoll stuff, you can use Terraforming and 3 copies of Secret Village of the Spellcasters. So say your opponent is on Runic or something, being able to flip this, just use your Shaddoll package and win the game from there is really good, because we all know that Runic is running around right now, Runic Mystic Mine, all those other degenerate builds, so being able to use this card to lock your opponent out of using spell cards is really good. Speaking of locking your opponent out of doing things, 3 copies of Dimensional Barrier. This is just an extra hedge against Tearlaments right here. You could use it for other matchups once more stuff comes out. Maybe you have a problem with Exo Sisters, your locals, or something like that, so this is also going to be pretty good for that. Next, 3 copies of Dark Hole. This is mostly to pair with your Dark Ruler No More. This probably should be Raigeki, definitely could be. Last but never least, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. It's another light target, so if you need extra lights because you really need to go in for your light plays, this is totally going to help you out. Other than that, Plunder Patrol got some new support. That deck is playing the Adventure package, so being able to hit that Faithful Adventure with this card is going to be really good. I know that a lot of this deck is heads up for the next meta. That's still pretty good in this meta too. So that is it for the deck profile, guys. Please feel free to go sound off in the comments down below. Let me know what you guys think. Again, make sure that we are checking, make sure we hit the notification bell, make sure that we hit the subscribe button. I know you may think that you subscribed, but you didn't, just because I keep getting recommended to you. But other than that, leave any suggestions for future videos in the comments. Love you guys. It's your resident cheek clapper and homie dapper signing out. YGO Senpai.